All right, notes 3 is our intro to integers. Now, with whole numbers, those were the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, and so forth, right? Well, when we're talking about integers, it's taking all of those same numbers and the negatives. So it's the numbers negative 3, negative 1, negative 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way out to the right and all the way out to the left. So on your number line, those are our integers. When you're talking about the absolute value of the number, let me tell you how it came about. It actually depicts distance, and it's defined to be the distance between a number and 0. But let me explain it to you in terms that I think everybody would understand. If you drive your car 3 miles, you have put 3 miles on your car, haven't you? If you back up, because let's say our transmission messes up, and now we've got to go only reverse works. Okay, so if you drive it in reverse for 3 miles, you still put 3 miles on your car, didn't you? You still gone that distance of 3 miles, whether you did it in forward or in reverse. So that's how absolute value actually came about. It was used to depict distances. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. The absolute value of negative 3, okay, I did it in reverse, but I still put 3 miles on my car. Okay, so let's look at these. The absolute value of 7 would be 7. The absolute value of negative 7, okay, I did them in reverse, but I still covered 7 miles. This one is a little different. I want you to highlight it, and I want you to put an arrow pointing at that negative. That negative is not inside the absolute value, is it? So you're going to end up doing the inside of the absolute value first. The absolute value of 7 is still 7. And that negative is after the fact. So that one will give us an answer of negative 7. And then finally, the absolute value of 0. Well, if you didn't move your car at all, you still didn't put any miles on the car, right? So 0. Now, adding and subtracting integers. When you add integers with the same sign, it's just like adding the absolute value of the two numbers together and then keeping their sign. So if you add two positives together, 8 plus 7 is 15. If you add two negatives together, negative 8 plus negative 5 is negative 13. You add them and you keep the sign. When you're adding integers with the same sign, that's how you do it. Now, when you add integers with different signs on them, this, you probably heard this, you subtract, let me highlight it, you subtract the smaller value from the larger value and then keep the sign of the larger number. So let's do it. Negative 8 plus 15, again, subtract the larger one minus the smaller one. 15 minus 8 is 7. Because the larger number is positive, so is our answer. 8 plus negative 13. That's going to be subtract the larger one minus the smaller one. 13 minus 8 is 5. But because the larger one is negative, my answer is negative 5. All subtraction problems can be written as addition problems. Keep that in mind so that if you kind of freak out on this last rule especially, you can make it into an addition problem this way. We can rewrite this as, like, scoot in here, and you can rewrite that as 7 plus a negative 9. Same thing here. I can rewrite that as negative 8 plus, I'm sorry, this one is different. Hold on, let me erase that. Let's do that one first, then we'll talk about the rule that's being shown to you in that last example. 7 minus 9 is the same thing as 7 plus a negative 9. That means subtract, because they're two different signed numbers. 9 minus 7 is 2. And because the larger one is negative, the answer is negative 2. Now for this next one, that is actually called a double negative. A double negative becomes a plus sign. So I want you to go in here. Anytime that you have two negative signs that are separated by a parentheses, not an absolute value, nothing else, right? If they're separated only by a parentheses like that, you're going to make it into a plus sign. And this is when we're adding two numbers that are separated by, that had a minus, a parentheses, and another minus. That actually is called a double negative. And now you can rewrite that as -8 plus 5. -8 plus 5, two different signed numbers, so you're going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger. But yes, that double negative there, and actually let's call it that. It's when you have two negatives that are separated by a parentheses like that, when you're adding different signed numbers. Now, the inverse property of addition, when you're adding a number to the additive inverse of itself, or I like to say if you add a positive number to the negative version of itself, you get 0. That's what that's saying. Makes sense, right? 8 plus a -8, 10 plus a -10, those would cancel each other out. You get 0. Now, let's go ahead and perform these indicated operations. And again, we don't get to use a calculator ever in this class, so knowing your multiplication tables and being able to add numbers is very important. Let's start with this first one. If we have 28 plus 13, I'm adding them. I remember this from whole numbers. 8 plus 3 is 11. Bring down the 1, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 more is 41. 11 minus 8. Okay, well, I can think about it. This is just straight subtraction, so 11 minus 8 is 3. On this next one, 8 minus 11. Wait a minute, the larger one now is negative, so I know that when I'm not sure about it, I can rewrite it, or I can just say subtract them and keep the sign of the larger one. 11 minus 8 is 3. Because the larger number is negative, so is our answer. 8 plus -15, same rule. Subtract them. 15 minus 8 is 7. Because the larger number is negative, so is our answer. -8 plus -15. Okay, we are adding two negative numbers. Two negative numbers, so we pretend that they're positive or the absolute value of them. Add them together. 8 plus 5 is 13. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Because they're both negative and I'm adding them, the answer would be a -23. Over here, hey, that's that double negative. I'm going to put a little star by it. Got a double negative, so first thing you're going to do is make it into a plus sign. This is now -8 plus 6. Two different signed numbers, so you subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2. Keep the sign of the larger. On number 11, 8 plus -8. Adding a number to the opposite of itself. They just cancel out. You get 0. -13 plus 13. Same thing. Adding a number to the negative of itself. 0. -15 plus 83. If I have two different signed numbers, I'm going to subtract them and keep the sign of the larger. So I know my answer is going to be positive. Now, I'm going to have to borrow on this one. So I'm going to borrow from the 8, leaves behind a 7, give the 10 to the 3. Now, 13 minus 5 is 8, and 7 minus 1 is 6. And I know it's positive because the larger number is positive. Two negative numbers being combined, or you can rewrite it if it kind of bothers you to look at it that way. -14, I can write it as an addition problem by just scooting the -83 over and putting a plus sign between them. Look at that rule again that we wrote, that we had highlighted. -14 plus -83, same sign. We're just going to add them and keep the sign. So 83 and 14. 3 plus 4 is 7, 8 plus 1 is 9. And because both numbers are negative, oops, so is our answer. 45 minus a minus 89. Oh, that's a double negative if I've ever seen one. So now we're really just adding two positive numbers together. 5 plus 9 is 14, carry the 1. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 8 is 13. 134, and because they're both positive, the answer stays positive. Here's another one. If you're not sure about what it's doing, you can always rewrite it as an addition problem. Now you can see that there are two different signed numbers. So real quick, we're going to subtract. Now I'm not going to show all of this one, but when you subtract it, you get 129. Help me out. Pause the video. Think about what would the sign be. Negative 129 is correct. And actually, you know what? I'm going to, we're going to go ahead and do it. When you're adding and subtracting three numbers or four numbers, doesn't matter. You just do it from left to right. Now, 9 plus a negative 9, these become 0, don't they? 0 minus a minus 3 is what is left. Hey, that is a double negative if I've ever seen one, right? So we're going to make it a plus sign. 0 plus 3, there's that addition by 0 is going to give us 3. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and look at the first two numbers, negative 6 and negative 8. If I'm adding two negative numbers, I'll just add them and keep the sign. Now bring down the rest of the problem. Negative 14 minus 4. That's like adding two negative numbers, which means add the two numbers, 18, and keep the sign. And one more. 15 minus 8 is negative 3. That's going to bring the rest of it down. And again, as soon as I see that double negative, to plus. Negative 3 plus 4 is going to give us 1. And one last problem. We made it through this in one video. The record high temperature in a town is 114 degrees Fahrenheit. The record low temperature in the same town is negative 16. How much greater was the highest temperature from the lowest? Okay, so if I put that on a number line, way over here at 114 and way over here at negative 16, and somewhere around here is 0. This is how I want you to think about it visually. This is 114 units. This is 16 units. When I add those two together, I get 130. Okay, you can see it visually that way, or you can subtract. You can say 114 minus negative 16. That's a double negative, which would give us the 130 again. I don't know why I chose to show you that one visually, but that's another way you can think about it, and it goes with the definition of integers that we saw at the very beginning. I'll see you in the next set of notes.